I was living out in New Mexico. This is called In the Land of the Navajo. And it's true, One-Eyed Jack is a character in it, and I kind of named it loosely after a guy I knew named Fast Eddie Phelan. Fast Eddie was a turquoise trader, and he traded other kinds of things too. And I was down in also, One-Eyed Jack is from the Marlon Brando movie, and also Ramblin' Jack Elliott. So it's a character made up of all these guys who were my heroes. And we were down in, I was driving across the country in an old VW Bug with two dogs and my girlfriend in the car. And we made it all the way across the country, but one of the dogs took off, but that's all right. It was a good dog, so it made somebody a good dog. But we drove all the way from New England in the fall after a long hot summer. I had just left the band C Train, and I was looking for greener pastures. I was actually headed west to try and play with my brothers, and ended up forming the band with Dave Grisman, my old partner, called Old and in the Way, with Jerry Garcia and those guys. And I'd been kind of frustrated, you know, the kind of songs I was writing people in the rock and roll didn't think that they were quite rock and roll enough. And I thought, well, you know, I know they're good songs, but man, it's hot up here. I'm just afraid the glue is going to melt on those instruments sitting there, but that's a lot of confidence there. And I think they're from Nashville too. Haven't learned that lesson of the weather yet. Sorry, I'm just kidding. So we were driving through Anadarko, Oklahoma, and I was big into the American Indian, and this song came out of the experience of going to the Kiowa Apache Indian Reservation, and there was a trading post there, and I walked in, and there was all these beautiful beaded rattles and very beautifully designed mandalas of beaded circles and everything, and I knew from my research that they belonged to the Peyote Church. And so I thought I was going to be kind of cool, and I walked up to the guy and I said, "Nice medicine." And he goes, "Medicine? You like medicine? Come with me." We went in the back room, and there was like 1,000 peyote buttons strung along the ceiling, drying in the afternoon October sun. And he gave me a bag full of them, and I bought a rattle, of course. I stood there outside that store holding the rattle and that bag of peyote, going, "What am I doing?" You know. And I walked across the street, and I noticed this car that had New Hampshire license plates on this old Range Rover, a Rover actually, one of the little Jeep-sized Rovers. And I said, "Man, that looks like Fast Eddie Phelan's Jeep." And I went into the trading post, and Fast Eddie was selling Curtis prints, which they had found the original plates of Edward Curtis's photos of the American Indians encased in wax in a used bookshop next to Chinatown in Boston. And they had gotten the rights to reproduce a certain number of these, and that's why you still see them for sale. In the back of the New York Times, they always have these pictures for sale. You can buy these prints of prints. But they had the real deal. It was printed in beautiful printing with an onion skin layer over the top, keep it safe. I walked in, there's Fast Eddie, and he's dealing Curtis prints with the guy. It's like an art gallery, you know, and they've got their own beaded stuff hanging on the wall, and I'm like a little dazzled by this point. And I walked up to Eddie and I said, "Hey man," and he had driven down from Taos, New Mexico. He said, "Peter, man, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I guess I'm looking for you, Ed." He said, "What's going on?" I said, "I had this little bag," and I said, "I just was at the trading post across the street, and much to my surprise, they gave me some medicine." He said, "Wow," as he began packing up his Curtis prints. "Let's go make camp." Okay, so we did. We drove outside of town by the river, but still on the main road. And we had a little Coleman stove and everything, made cowboy coffee, you know, just coffee with eggshells and coffee and stuff like that. And we started chewing and chewing and chewing. And pretty soon, the day expanded into this beautiful afternoon on the Indian reservation. And about 6 o'clock that night, we'd been sitting there. I'd been playing guitar and stuff. We'd start out on just the verge of the little grass patch next to the road under a big cottonwood tree by the river. Well, around 6 o'clock that evening comes 2 Indian police guys on horseback. And they come riding right up to us, and I thought, man, wow, you know. I look up into this horse's nostrils, and I see this guy in a cowboy hat look over the top. And they're rangers, they're reservation rangers, and both Indian guys. Beautiful, shining black eyes, you know. And the guy looked down to me and said, "I am sorry to disturb you boys, but could you move your camp off the road?" We had somehow drifted out into the road. There was no traffic, so we didn't notice, you know. So we drove away from there that night. I headed out and ended up out in southern Utah at a place called Muley Point, overlooking the San Juan River. And I wrote this song out there.